To explain the concepts of the exposure triangle and the byproducts of it, let's look at this animation. As you can see, we have a moving subject in the foreground and the mountains in the background. Let's analyze our situation here. Notice that with the current value of shutter speed, we have a motion blur on our subject. We achieve a bit of depth of field with the f-number we're using, so the mountains are blurred a little. We also have a small ISO value, so we don't have noise in our image. Let's say we want to have a sharp subject without motion blur. To do so, we need to increase the shutter speed value. As you can see, our image gets darker, so we have to adjust other options to keep the same exposure. We can increase the ISO value, which will give us a noisy image, or we can open the aperture wider, which will give us a blurry background. Okay, but you can ask me what to do if I don't want to have the depth of field and my goal is to have everything in focus. No problem. In order to get this, we need to have a narrow aperture. Let's increase the f-number value. But as you can see, it's making our image look too dark. To make it brighter, we have to decrease the value of the shutter speed. But it still doesn't feel right, so we need to higher up the ISO value as well. Done! Now I will show you how to use this knowledge inside the 3ds Max. I prepared the scene. We have the foreground, the moving object, and the background. This is daytime, and the car is moving 60 km per hour. Now I will stop it so the car is in the middle of the frame, and I start rendering to show you how it works. As you can see with the current value of the shutter speed, the car has a lot of motion blur. Let's say we want to freeze the car, so we have to increase the shutter speed value. As you've just learned, the image gets darker. To keep the same exposure, we can use the exposure calculator. We'll apply our starting values and select what we want to calculate. Let's say we want to change the aperture. 2.2 is the value we have to use. Let's say we don't want to have a shallow depth of field, so let's adjust the number. Let's use 13. Now we have to calculate it again. We should use ISO 3200. Now, the good news is that typically we don't have to set all of these settings in the software. We can simply use the automatic exposure. However, this knowledge is essential if you want to get realistic results. If you understand how it works in real life, you won't create unrealistic results in 3D. Let's say we have a low light situation. We would have to change the ISO to 16,000. In a normal camera, it would result in a very noisy image, so this is not a natural outcome. To get the best possible outcome, we have to keep this as close as to reality as possible. In this case, let's lower the ISO to 2000, which would be fine in photography. And let's calculate the f-stop. .5 is our value. In some cases, you will not even know what is wrong with the image, but it will look fake for some reason. And this could be one of these reasons. Also, with this knowledge, you can quickly decide which options to change to get a desirable result.